Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sampson and my daughter, Faith Sampson, on Veterans in Politics. Today, our candidate is Stephanie Phillips for United States Senate, and she's going to be interviewed by my daughter on LGBTQ, transgender, and abortion issues. So this is going to be a good show, and we like to know from a teenage point of view. And not many candidates would agree to do something like this, only the brave. And all those one-issue candidates out there will never do anything like this. So Ms. Phillips she covers several different issues, several different platforms that she's running her campaign on. But before we get to Ms. Phillips, Faith, tell us a little bit about you.
My name's Faith, and I'm 15. And I've always had issues with my gender and my sexuality and how I identify. So I kind of just want to share, because a lot of people are not educated on what is actually going on, and they just blame it on something when it isn't even that. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Phillips, I've heard your bio many times, but we might have different listeners and viewers on there. Tell us about yourself.
I was born on the East Coast and grew up on the West Coast. I have been in Nevada for 30 years, and I've been in the real estate business that whole time. I own my own company. I have a nonprofit that I operate to help kids around the Valley. And I got into politics. Oh, and I am a mom to my two kids. They're 18 and 21. And I got into politics right during COVID because of what they were doing to us. And everything that they did, I thought was unconstitutional and un-American. And so I hopped in with both feet and have been planning this run for quite some time. So I know I was just here and did a very long podcast and went into detail for my bio. So all of that's out there. But I just want to say to Faith, we've known each other for a while now. And I want to say that I'm proud of you for doing this and for bringing this up and having the conversation, and that you're brave for doing that. And I appreciate the time to talk. And I think what some people are missing in this country is the discussion. Even though people disagree on issues and people have different opinions of it, we still need to respect the other person, and we need to hear the other side. And we still may not agree, but the fact that we have this discussion, especially about these controversial subjects, a lot of politicians, they don't want to talk about it at all. They don't want to hear about it. And they think, this might ruin my campaign, or this isn't going to look good, or whatever that is. But there's a lot of people in this country that are hurting, and they're having issues with things, and I appreciate the discussion.
Go ahead, Faith. It's your show. Ask her the question.
So why do you think that kids learning about different things like identities is such a bad thing?
Well, what I am against and what I talk about in my campaign, it's not about the kids learning these things. Kids are going to learn these things as they get older. It's about the sexualization of kids. And when kids are in grade school, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and they're being shown very graphic sexual materials in books, in sex education programs, things like that. I believe the parents are supposed to teach their kids about the birds and the bees when that time comes. But what they're bringing to school sometimes is extremely graphic and at a very young age. And I don't believe that they need to sexualize kids, because the consequences of that, we see 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds that are boys dressing as girls, and they're dressing in thigh-high, high-heel boots like you would see a dancer at a strip club. and they're dancing in front of a group of adults waving money in front of them at 12 or 13 years old. How do you think that they got to that point in their life? They were sexualized at a young age.
Yeah, I have never seen that, but I was never taught anything sexual in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of what the general like LGBTQ public is trying to do for kids is teach them about like transgenderism and gay, lesbian, bi, all that kind of different identities, so they understand it more. Because so many kids that are actually gay end up getting bullied for it because the kids that bully don't understand it. They think it's abnormal. So I think that it would be good for kids to learn about that kind of stuff so they understand it better. And it doesn't hurt anyone. Like, it helps them to learn about different things. Mm-hmm. Like, it has nothing to do with being sex or sexual. Like, a sexual identity, like sexuality, is not anything about like sex or having sex or any of that. It's just about kids learning about different identities. Mm-hmm. So like you can like get sexuality mixed up with sex. It's not sex. It's just about identities and them learning about them and that kind of stuff.
So you are 15, and when you were in 3rd grade or 4th grade, the sex ed program was different then. So some of this stuff has changed in the last few years. So what you were taught versus what some of these kids are being taught now across the country it's different. And it's much more graphic now. And it's so graphic that parents all over the country have gone in front of school board meetings and they have testified and they have read excerpts from books that are part of school curriculum, right? Yeah. So they're reading them and it's public record. They're on a microphone. And when they read this, the school boards cut their microphone. And they're saying to the parent, you can't say these words. Well, why can't they? If you're teaching our kids this and our kids are having to read this in the books, why can't we say this publicly? Why is this dirty and vulgar language that you can't say this in public? And also newspapers, the news media, they won't report this stuff word for word because it's vulgar. And you can find these all over the country. You can find where they have taken the microphone. Here in Clark County, they've done that. Yeah. And so my thing, and a lot of parents feel this way, that if it's that graphic, and you can't say that in public, in a public forum, in front of a school board, and you can't print it in a newspaper, and you can't put it on the 6 o'clock news, why in the world are our kids being taught this and having to read this material if it's that vulgar? Those are the kinds of things that I'm against. Yeah. And when you're talking about when kids are having identity issues, or they feel like they're trapped in a body that they don't feel like they're themselves. I believe that kids need an outlet and they need to talk to somebody about that. When people make a decision, when they get to an age where they feel like, okay, this is my sexual preference. This is who I love. This is my choice. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. I am a live and let live type of person. And I have friends in the LGBTQ community, and I consider some of them family, and I love them, and I love them equally as my other friends. I don't judge people for their choice. That's their choice. My choices are my choices. I'm only responsible for my choices and what comes out of my mouth and my behavior. But what somebody else chooses to do, that's them. I am no one to judge someone else for the decisions that they make in their life. And I hope that people, I've been called all kinds of names, because I'm standing against the sexualization of children. People have called me transphobe, homophobe. They've called me a racist. They've called me all kinds of things that I am not. Yeah. Because what they're missing is what I just talked to you about. And there's all kinds of examples, like the drag queen shows. These grown men are dressing in G-strings, thongs, scantily clad. They're having drag shows for 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. Why do you think that a grown man dressed like that would want to dance and perform in front of children? And parents are taking their kids to these shows. That's the stuff that that's not beneficial to the kid. That kind of stuff sexualizes the kid. Those are the kinds of things that I'm against. But I'm certainly not against somebody that's going to choose who they want to love and who they want to be, because that's their choice and that's their business.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from on a lot of that stuff, and I don't agree on like kids being sexualized. But a lot of like the stuff you said, like drag shows or that kind of stuff. A lot of drag shows just something like men expressing their femininity. I have never like heard of any person, like any drag queen, sexualizing a kid. They only do like I looked into it, like I've never heard of one of them sexualizing a kid. They just like do story time readings to them, and they just do all kind of innocent stuff. Like they show up at pride parades, but I've never seen like one dancing in front of a kid with thongs on, or all that kind of weird stuff. I look into it, and I just see them like doing story times with little kids, and I don't really see it as like a big deal.
It's all over the country, and I'll show you some, and I see it all the time, and it happens. So when you have an adult like that, and if they want to dress in drag and go do their shows for adults, fine, great, that's your thing. If you want to attend that, wonderful, that's your business. But when you have them, and this happens, you can find it, it's all over the internet. And when they're dancing in front of kids and these parents, and I fault the parents too, for bringing their little kids to a show like that, that in and of itself is sexualizing that child. And that is the fault of not only that performer, but the parent.
Yeah. Yeah, I get like that kind of stuff. I don't agree on.
Yeah.
I just saw it as like drag queens like reading stuff to kids, and I'm like, oh, this is not a big deal. Like, but like them like dancing in front of kids is a much more bigger deal, because like it's like a stripper or something dancing in front of a kid. That's
well, and have you seen the pride parades in California where these people are basically naked and show, their business walking down the street? When you expose yourself in public, that used to be illegal to my knowledge. Why is that okay in a pride parade when you have children in the audience on the street? Why is that allowed? Those are the kind of things that I'm talking about. And I think that having this discussion kind of weeds through the, what I really am standing against, and the things that we just need to clear up what it is. But I think that you agree on both of those things. Yeah. Those are the things I'm talking about. I think that that's horrific. That should never be allowed in public. Why is that okay during a pride parade? If we had that during a 4th of July parade, they'd be arrested on the spot. Why is that okay for them?
People just think that they can uncover like clothes off to like celebrate their body, but it's not really a good idea, because it's weird, honestly.
No, it's horrible. And just because you're gay or that's your sexual preference or you're straight, people, I came from a time where whatever you did in the bedroom, that's your business.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is or what you participate in, that's your business. It was never, before the internet or in social media, nobody was out there, yelling that from the rooftops. It wasn't so prevalent because it's really none of anyone's business. So, and then you have social media, you have the internet, and people start coming out and they're very vocal about what they're doing in their bedroom and what their preference is. And all of a sudden you have a disagreement where one doesn't agree with the other's lifestyle and vice versa.
And kind of just like overlaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the social media thing. And so all you guys know, and my kids, because my daughter is close to you in age, only a few years older, you guys grew up with the internet.
Yeah.
You guys grew up with cell phones. You guys grew up with social media. And it's a very different environment where you guys have access to so much information, good and bad. And you guys are exposed to a whole lot, probably way before its time, because you can pull anything on the internet, right? So the parents that see that, they're involved in their kids' lives and they want to protect them and shield them from things that maybe you should be exposed at a later age, when you're your age and you're old enough to understand. And you know how you feel. The older you get more familiar with who you are and how you feel and the decisions that you want to make for your own personal life. Mm-hmm. So I think just the advances of technology with the internet and things like that have exposed our kids to a lot.
Yeah, it definitely messes up kids our age. You might identify as bi or gay, and then when you turn 18, you might be straight. Mm-hmm. But honestly, before that, if you identified as something else or you didn't feel like you fit in with the general public, and before you started going on the internet as a kid, and you identified as something else when you were a little kid, then that would be more preferable because you already know what you want and who you are and kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. When you guys grow up, when you hit puberty, it's a very confusing time for a lot of kids, boys and girls. And there's a lot that's going on hormonally in your body. And you may feel something one day, the next day you feel something different. And a lot of kids are kind of all over the board with that. And I'm sure you can relate. And especially girls, we have many more things that boys have to deal with. So in that time frame, I'm sure there's a lot of kids and I've seen how kids have transitioned, let's say at your age, and then a few years later they get in their 20s and then they regret that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So some do, some don't. Some it's successful. They like it. They adjust to that change and it's great for their life. But some of these kids are coming back, and I've heard them testify. I've heard them tell their stories. And this one, he was a boy and he transitioned to a girl. And he came to a point where he got older and he said, he looks back on the adults in his life, not only the parents, but the doctors, and said, why did you let this happen?
Yeah. I
was a child. I wasn't mentally ready or able to make that decision. The parents, at the time, maybe they thought that was the best choice for their child. Maybe the doctor did. But sometimes those procedures are irreversible.
Yeah.
Let's say you wanted to be a boy. All right. Let's say you transitioned and you're 15. They would do a double mastectomy and they would take your uterus. Okay. Mm-hmm. And let's say you turn 25, 28, and all of a sudden you fall in love with a man and you want a child.
Yeah.
Your uterus is
one.
gone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of kids that come to that point where, oh my gosh, what did I do? And you're left with the scars of that surgery, which a lot of people don't even, I didn't realize what the scars are. Have you seen the pictures of, do you mind if I show you?
Sure.
So I didn't realize until some of this stuff, everything goes around on social media. And I looked at these, what they do during these surgeries, and I was like, oh my gosh. So they take skin off of the thighs here. Do you see right here on the thighs?
Yeah.
So that's on the top. And they create a penis. So now just imagine those scars on your legs.
Could you show the camera?
Later on in your life, because you've got these big chunks of so you're left with these scars on top of your thighs, right? And then you have, because your breasts would be removed, so you have scars across your breasts because they take them out, right? And here, let me show, I think I printed one of those pictures too. Because people don't, they think about, how this ends up. Here's the top part. So that's how it would look for you.
Yeah.
Right? So you have this, and then you have this right here, which would be completely forever. That would never go away, right? So with not only that, because people don't think about what these scars are going to look like, but at some point when these kids are looking back and they're saying to themselves, why did you let me do this? And I feel so sorry for those kids. And they can't have kids. A lot of them they're sterile, and they can't have kids. And they look back and they're gonna blame their parents because they were the adult in the situation, and the child is just a child. You only know the 15 years that you've lived, right? Yeah. Your parents and I were much older, so we've been there, done that, and we can look beyond age 15, and we know when we graduated high school, when we graduated college, what our 20s look like. We still didn't know anything at 20s, right? We didn't know, but we figured that out. Every decade that you learn. And when you look back, when you turn 30, I guarantee you, we're going to have another conversation. Mm-hmm. And at 30, you're going to look back at this point in your life, and you're going to look at things differently. You can't help but look at things differently. Maybe this particular subject, you have the same opinion, but other things, when you get out in the workforce and you're around a lot of other people with diverse backgrounds and religions and all kinds of things, you learn, and your opinions of things change. And people always told me that, when I was your age and when I was, 18, 20. And I thought, I'm going to always think this way. Yeah. And now I'm almost 51 years old. And looking back at some of this, and I look back at all the things that I've learned, and things change. And so I wouldn't want that for you. I wouldn't want that for any kid that wasn't really prepared for the result of this and the final consequences, to not be able to have that reversed. Yeah. Because they changed at some point, and then it went back, and then some things you can never take back.
Yeah, as kids who feel that way, before puberty is usually when, if they feel that way, like before puberty even starts, it's more like receptible to stay like that than during puberty. Like below the age of 11, like say a 3-year-old is a girl and wants to be a boy, that is something that he's gonna want, and it's gonna probably stay there. But honestly, if you feel something during puberty, it's different because it changes and it fluctuates. And by the time you hit 18, you might not want it anymore, or like 20. So yeah, I understand it. I understand like what, like a lot of kids don't actually know what they want.
What do you think of seeing this visually? What is your opinion of this stuff? Like when you see the results of something like that?
I kind of think it's too much, honestly. But people can do what they want to do. Like, I don't.
Do you think that kids that are sitting there with their parents and doctors should have, maybe they have a class that they go through or a video, and they have to complete so many, an hour of educational process so they can see all of the pitfalls. They can see the pros and the cons so that they see stuff like this before they make that decision. Do you think that that would be helpful?
Yeah, so they can understand it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Education. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
Did you talk enough about the LGBTQ?
Yeah, I did.
How about the transgender issue?
There's a lot of issues.
Well, go ahead.
Well, with transgenderism, based on like, you're not really like more prone to keep that gender, like want to be that gender, unless you like felt it before puberty. Like when you were like a really little kid and you're like, oh, I want to be a boy, then you probably do.
So at 3 or 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there, you feel like you're someone else or you're trapped in another body, right? Yeah. So you're saying that most kids at that age are going to continue and keep that thought all the way through their teenage years and adult years.
Most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, compared to if you feel that way during puberty is different from you haven't even hit puberty yet and you feel that way.
Is that something that at your school or with your friends, is that something that you talk about? So you hear all the different opinions? Is that coming from what your friends have shared with you, or where does that opinion come from?
Mostly what my mom shares with me.
Okay.
About like her clients and stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, like a lot of people I know do have different identity issues too. Mm-hmm. So I understand it. Like I have some identity issues, but it's not like I want to be a boy kind of thing. It's just like I kind of just want to be accepted, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stereotyped. I don't like, I can't do this, I can't do that because I'm a biological girl, or like, I don't know, like I like stuff guys do. Like I want to like, hunting, fishing, like I'm interested in all that kind of stuff. And I just don't feel like I'm accepted into it sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just me.
Well, I can tell you that being a girl, you are not limited in any of that. You can join archery programs, hunting programs. I went through the hunter safety course with my son, and I shoot a bow. I shoot a gun. You can join the military. There are so many things. You can be one of the guys, and you can join all those things. You've already wrestled. That's mostly a boys' sport. There's, not a whole lot of girls in that, I would say. You can join different programs and be part of that group. And I agree with you. You shouldn't be shunned just because you feel differently. Yeah. You shouldn't be bullied because you feel differently or you like girls instead of boys, or you like boys instead of girls. It's tough being a girl. We got a lot going on. So I understand that, and going through that puberty process is difficult.
Yeah. I always felt like I needed validation from males. Not like in a weird way, but kind of just like I just wanted to be accepted by them when I was younger. I don't know.
I think that I understand where you're coming from. And some of those more boy activities, I think times have changed so much in our society that you can easily join in those programs and they're going to accept you.
Yeah.
Because those girls that are tough, I mean, just look at the military. Look at how many females are in the military now. They're pilots now.
Yeah.
They can go to combat. Females have really moved into some of these categories and places where they weren't really allowed to be before. So it's really up to you. Sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And make those choices, and you can find your place, and you can find those skills and those things that you enjoy. And it doesn't matter if it's a boy activity or girl activity, because we cross all lines now.
Yeah, there's a lot of stereotypes put into that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some papers talking about how male and female isn't just like a straight thing. Like there's things beyond being a male and a female genetically.
Tell me about that.
So here's one story that I found that explains a little bit about like when babies develop in the womb, they can have different genetic links like XY, Y, X, X kind of stuff that kind of generates like to a male. Y is like a male and X is a female. So this like 46-year-old pregnant woman visited a hospital to screen her baby's chromosomes for abnormalities. They found out the baby was fine, but they found something really interesting about the mother, that her body was built from cells from two individuals from her mother, from twin embryos that emerged in her mother's womb. And the cells carried two X chromosomes that typically make a person female, and the other had an X and a Y. And then this lady became pregnant again with her third child, and she learned for the first time that a large part of her body was chromosomally male. So a large part of her body was mostly a male gene. Chromosomally male.
What you've said to me is female and male.
Yes.
X and Y. And I realize that there are anomalies. There are rarities out there where things happen. But as far as a boy and a girl,
Yeah.
a male and a female, there's people out there that are trying to teach our kids that there's like 100 different genders.
Yeah.
And you can identify as whatever you want to.
Yeah, it's just about like how you feel.
Right.
What they're trying to teach kids is like these different genders so kids can understand what other people are going through, because there is a lot of kids that go through that at that age and that get bullied for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps kids to understand what it means, because they get confused by it, you know?
Well, to me, what confuses kids is when you're trying to teach them, in some schools, they don't let you say boy and girl anymore.
Yeah. That can confuse kids, yeah.
Okay, so what are these kids? I mean, these kids they want to go to recess. They want to go to lunch. They want to play dodgeball. You know, they don't want someone confusing them and telling them all of these things that they're not even prepared to deal with, you know, in grade school. They want to go down the slide, right? When you restrict them from saying boy, girl, or you're teaching them that there's like 100 things you can be, let me ask you this. When you go into a doctor's office, before that doctor examines you or tries to figure out what's wrong with you, they determine your sex.
Yeah,
And right, if you're a boy or a girl, because there's two sets of plumbing, so to speak. The doctor has to treat you depending on your plumbing, okay? A doctor does not say, oh, you're non-binary, you're neither one. No, because science is set. Science is science. And they have to treat you if you have a uterus and a vagina, or if you don't have a uterus and you have a penis.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes down to that. So when these people are out here, to me, they're lying to kids. When they're trying to teach them fallacies, that to me is confusing the kids. They're telling them that men can have babies. We all know that that's false. But when you have a biological female, and they transition and they still have their uterus, they may be male on the outside, but their plumbing is still female, right? Mm-hmm. So even though they look male, they're telling these kids that male can have a baby because you have to call them by those pronouns. You have to call them a man because that's their pronoun now, and they've transitioned. But you're still lying to the kids because that man has a uterus and they have a womb and they can have a child. Yeah. So those types of things that they're teaching these kids, they say a man can lactate. No, they can't. That's a biological female. So those are the types of things that I don't agree with. I don't like that, I think. And I would say most parents, this goes for Democrats, Republicans, and everyone in between. This isn't a parent-child issue. Yeah. This is not a partisan issue. This is not just Republicans think that or just Democrats or whatever. This is a parent thing. And these are our kids. Our kids are precious. You guys, your parents are sitting here. Mm-hmm. They would die for you. Yeah. I would die for my kids. We want to protect you. You guys are innocent. It's our responsibility to teach you the best that we know how to teach you. We want to teach you the truth. We want to teach you to where you're going to be successful in life. Uh-huh. So sometimes these fallacies, when the government gets involved in raising our kids and they get involved in the school system, that's where we go wrong. To me, it's the parents that should be raising their kids, making those decisions. Yeah. This is we the people, not we the government. And the government needs to get out of the business of raising our children because it's us. And we're making the best choices we can possibly make for you guys because we want you guys to be the best and be responsible and independent and be successful in your lives, right?
Yeah, I understand like that kind of stuff. A lot of kids shouldn't really get like all of this gender that, gender, they should just like be kids and stuff. But I think it's good to explain it to them in bits and pieces, not like where it's over exaggerated. A lot of people like to over exaggerate it. So like, oh, this female turned into a male, they can do this and they can do that. That's like more, we should just, we shouldn't like do that to our kids. We should just teach them in bits and pieces so they understand a little bit of it better. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Where would you say, let me ask you this, being 15 years old and going through the public school system, what is your opinion and what is your solution to the kids that have gender dysphoria, that are feeling like they are gay or they have a different preference and they have questions? Instead of putting this in a sexual education program, should this be more private? Should it be, a social group after school that you guys can join and talk to? Should it be what is your solution? What do you think that us as parents and the school system, how would you structure that to help kids like that?
Honestly, For bathrooms,
Mm-hmm.
like just putting like family bathrooms, or like in my middle school there was a bathroom for like trans and non-binary people, but no one would use it, because a lot of people are afraid to get judged, so they kind of keep it silent. And that's what I've been saying. As little kids, it's good for them to learn some of it in bits and pieces so they can understand what other kids are going through, so they're not judging them throughout high school, because there's a lot of people that judge in high school, like a boy that, or like a girl looks like a boy, walks in the girl's bathroom, they'll all be staring at you. And it's just like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I can't go in the boys' bathroom. Like, it's kind of, or like a boy walks in the boys' bathroom, he looks more feminine. They're like, why are you in here?
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of just like, honestly, just like a family bathroom, or, like the bathroom everyone can go in,
Yeah.
So they don't have to like get all confused with it.
I've said that too, where, some of these schools are putting biological boys. Obviously, they've not transitioned yet. They still have all the parts of a male. And they want to participate in girls' sports. They want to go in the locker room because they feel as if they're a girl. And when you are protecting that one person and that one person's rights, you are now doing that at the detriment of all the girls that are in that locker room, right? So if you allow that boy to go in there and change in front of them, and those girls have to change in front of that one boy, if you have 100 girls in that locker room that feel violated, that feel, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh my goodness, what's happening? They are ignoring the rights and the privacy of those girls, all for this one student who feels like they're a girl, but they've got boy parts. So my answer to that would be, and it's a simple common sense answer, and it's what you say: have a space for them. You don't ostracize the girls. You don't ostracize that child who feels that way. And you have a neutral family bathroom. The sign says family. You see them all over in public, right? Why is that not a solution? Why is the government pushing for that boy, and the only solution for them is that boy in that girl's bathroom? And why is that?
I don't know. The government likes to do stuff like that. That's just the government. The government is like so corrupt. They're just like doing all this stuff, like getting rid of like people taking, testosterone or estrogen in different states, getting rid of people able to have abortions. Honestly, the government just wants to separate us. Like, they hide so much secrets from us. It's just like ridiculous how we're like fighting against them. They just want to separate us. They hide secrets from us,
I agree. And I think that's in large part how they want to conquer and control us and take us over. Yeah. If they can divide us and create division between us, to where
a Republican and a Democrat, they kind of divide each other. And it's like all this hate towards each other, when it doesn't even have to be like that. We can just combine together. Like, why are we different parties? Why?
Well, let me talk about that for a second, because I think the media, social media, they push this narrative, right? What you just said. There's Republicans and there's Democrats, and they call names. Everyone's a racist, right? If you don't agree with the agenda, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're a transphobe, you're this, you're that. They call you whatever name, right? Or you're an extremist. They call Republicans extremists all, now. But I think that when you sit down with, if you had 10 Republican friends and 10 Democrat friends, and you guys brought up 10 different issues, this issue, abortion, gun control, just pick the issue, and you guys all talked, I bet you would agree on 7 out of 10 of those issues, and you guys would not be here. You would be here in the middle, because I have half of my friends are Democrats, half of my friends are Republicans, and I love them all equally. And I have sat and talked politics with all of them. And we talk about issues, and it's amazing. We agree on most everything. And the people that I thought were the farthest left from me, when we actually sit down and talk, it's not how the media wants. It's not how that agenda is. Not at all. We're Americans, right? We're Americans before all. And we all have the issues that I talk about. It's not a party issue. It's a human issue. It's a family issue. It's a child issue. And I don't believe that we are as divided as what they would have us believe. And I think you would find that too, talking with your friends.
Yeah.
Do you think gender fluid, all right, let me just rephrase. What's the difference between gender fluid and a tomboy?
Being gender fluid is just, you kind of identify as feminine and masculine. Like, you can go either way. Like, I've seen gender fluid people dress as feminine one day and be masculine another day. And then a tomboy is like someone who's a girl that is like really, like, to describe a tomboy is like a girl who's really like outgoing, like, you know, does stereotypical boy stuff. You know, it's just like, I feel like a tomboy is something like, because they put in a stereotype as a girl who likes to do boy stuff. But if you were a boy and you like to do girl stuff, what would you call that, you know? It's kind of just, you know, like, you get hated on more if you're a boy and you like to do girl stuff than if you're a girl and you like to do guy stuff.
So what do they call a boy that likes to do girl stuff?
I don't know.
Do you think a lot of kids mix up the two between gender fluid and tomboys? You think they mix it up, or you think no?
I mean, they can. Gender fluid, anyone could be gender fluid. Like, doesn't matter what, like, biological sex you are. And then tomboy is just, you know, you're a biological girl. You still identify as a girl, but you, like, do more guy-related things, you know?
Do you think kids get that confused?
I mean, they can. Adults more. But, you know, with, like, you know, like teens or like kids?
Don't matter.
Well, it depends on how old you are. Like, if you're a little kid, you're probably going to get it more confusing.
And if you're a teen?
Compared to a teen, yeah, you'll probably understand it a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you talk about, are you done with the transgender issue? Is there anything more you want to talk about that?
I don't really have anything else to say right now.
All right, how about the abortion issue? Do you want to talk to Ms. Phillips about that?
I mean,
she's right there.
I don't really have anything to say about that either.
Okay. Are you done with the 3 topics, LGBTQ, transgender, and abortion?
Yeah, pretty much.
Would you vote for her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Faith. You're going to be voting age soon.
Ms. Phillips, do you have anything else you want to address on these 3 issues that she brought?
I would just say, I appreciate the discussion, and I appreciate the issues that she has brought up. And being 15 years old, coming on a show like this and questioning a political candidate, there's not many kids that would be confident enough and brave enough to do something like that. And I applaud her for that. And I would just say that to all the people out there, regardless of what your opinion is on these issues, whether it's abortion, transgenderism, the LGBTQ, we can all do better in having a little more compassion for people and the decisions that they have to make in life, regardless of whatever that is, and being a little less judgmental. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with a lifestyle. It doesn't mean that we have to live a certain lifestyle. It's that we understand each other, because we all have opinions. Just because we have different opinions and different belief systems doesn't mean we have to hate the other or judge the other or, be so divided. That's not a reason to divide. We're all people. We all believe different things. And I believe that we can really come together on a lot of this stuff because, again, this is a child and parental issue that the government needs to stay out of. It's up to us parents to protect our kids.
Faith, do you have anything else on Ms. Phillips?
No.
Well, I'm going to have you say the final words. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Faith, thank you so much for coming on the program. Mark is going to zoom in on you, and you could guide people to your website or talk a little bit about this and give them your point of contact.
Well, again, what I just said, I think that there is much more that we can do together rather than apart. We can be compassionate and loving towards each other because love goes a lot farther than hatred. And I think if we really looked at these issues, we looked at our kids, and we would find that this isn't a Republican issue. This is not a Democrat issue. These are our kids. And I keep talking about this, and kids are a huge part of my platform. And I want them protected. And I want the government out of their lives. I don't want the government to raise our kids. I think it's up to us parents. And we can do a great job and teach them to be loving towards others and not judgmental. And I appreciate the discussion and appreciate that Faith was willing to come on and talk about this. And I think we need to talk more about this. And I think more candidates need to come on and be open about these things. And discussion, I think it helps. And if you would like to visit my website, it's phillipsfornevada.com. It's the number 4, phillipsfornevada.com. And all of my social media is at Phillips for Nevada. And I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Folks, that's Stephanie Phillips, who's a candidate for United States Senate, being interviewed by Faith Sampson, 15 years old, talked about the LGBTQ transgender. I didn't think we'd get too much into the abortion issue, but we hope that people have a better understanding of a teenager perspective and the senatorial candidate perspective on the issue. This is Steve Sampson, Faith Sampson, Veterans in Politics. Until next time.